detail. I mean, the more you learn about securities, it is an exciting business. I love the business. And you think that a lot of people think that when they go into the home, the more information they give, the more likely it is a client will buy from you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's the big mistake everybody that's new makes is they go in loaded. You know, you're most productive when you're brand new and you don't know anything. So if we could teach our people to not talk so much and to ask a lot of questions, you'll make all your money asking questions, and it's really good. I've always tried to lay out a game plan when I go to a kitchen table, and I've been to a lot of new kitchen tables lately, and we'll walk in and say, "Hey, we're here to explore. We're here to help you sort of think about your future, but we're going to be done here in an hour and 30 minutes. Is that okay with you?" And you get their agreement to it. And then, I've always said if we can ask the right questions, you'll find out that they're going to teach you everything. And if you're a new person and you ask the right questions, your client will teach you at the next call. You just remember what you learned at the last call, and you pretty soon are not going to be doing much talking about what you know. It's mostly about their concerns and how they can make their goals. And it's amazing how quickly you can bring that time element down and do two or three appointments a night instead of one, because you aren't really that important to them. You think you are, but you're not. What's really important is them and their future and their goals. So that's what my experience has been anyway.
Yeah, and they really they just want to watch the hockey game. They don't want you in the house for 3 hours. Robert, how do because if we want to build the business and scale, like Arlie was talking, Arlie's going into a lot of new homes because he's training people. How do you keep it simple enough that is duplicable? That I mean, you have to consciously be aware that new recruit is also watching what you're doing and judging whether they can do it.
I just tell everybody it's not when new people get licensed, like Jeannie was saying, we just got to remember that questions pull, statements push. So the thing is, he who asks the most questions is in control. So if the client is asking you all the questions and you're not asking them questions, you're not learning anything about them. So you really can't lead them to their pain points to come up with an action plan to really get things resolved with them. So the key is short times, like you were saying, just a repeat of everybody saying, the longer you're in there, the less chance you have an opportunity to go back to. People are not going to sit there. They're being nice with you, but nice is different than getting results. And then if you complicate it and give them too much information, they have to get with their attorney to see if they can even do anything with it. So we want to make sure we're the one that's answering the questions for them.
100%. I love that. Questions pull, statements push, and that's awesome. Hey, Scott, we're getting ready to get this thing going. Looking forward to hearing from Mike and his team. You there, buddy?
Yeah, buddy. I'm here. Yep.
All right. So we're going to give it to you to take it away.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Hey, everybody. Welcome MPI today. We have a special treat. Like over the time as people come into the chat, they'll say different things. They'll have questions, they'll have comments. Some people will say like, hey, here's a suggestion for a great meeting, in the future, whatever. And so every month, I would say, somebody in the chat would say, hey, who'd be a great person to have on MPI? Mike Roten. And if I got it, I would answer back, hey, listen, you're no doubt, we're going to have him on, whatever. We finally connected. Mike and I, we were at Jimmy's golf outing together, and we figured out a date, and you all are in for a treat. For those of you that don't know Mike, Mike's been in the business a long time, right? He's like, he's like some of the rest of us, big old fart here, but he's been doing things for a long time. Mike is on his way to his 7th diamond. He has over $500 million with a B, $500 million in assets in his hierarchy. Mike is, aside from Mike being a great guy, Mike and Monica are just tremendous people. Mike is a builder. Mike has RVPs. He's got a hierarchy. He's not just a producer. I mean, he's run a base shop. We were talking the other day. He's had a base shop for a long period of time. And so I think everyone is going to get a ton out of Mike. And we're fortunate also because Mike has his number one income earning regional leader in his base shop on today, and he's got his number one securities cash flow RVP, which is his son Justin, is on today. So I think you guys are in for a great treat. Mike, take it away, buddy. Happy to have you.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. That's so much better than the last introduction you gave me. I might have paid you or something, but anyhow, thank you, and it's an
Mike,
honor.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you, Mike.
Yeah. I'm on.
He's kidding you.
I'm kidding you, buddy.
there you
I'm
go,
kidding.
bud.
Let's get back to you right there, dude.
That's my guy right there. Okay, so anyhow, so we really appreciate the opportunity to get on here, and what I want to try to do today is just sort of I'm gonna bring up a couple different people. One of them, and I'll tell more of my story when I speak at the end. But Melissa was my office manager for years, and a few years back, her husband lost his job and couldn't. And she said, I'm going to get licensed. So I think like 3 or 4 years ago, she started working on getting her license. Last year, she got her 65, and not the stuff I give her. That's the number one thing. People say, well, he's an office manager. It must be. He probably gave her a bunch of stuff. But listen to this. So right now, she got her 65 license last year. She got a security license, I think, 3 years ago. This is her income so far part-time this year. January paid $6,500 part-time. February, $8,000 part-time. March, $7,900 part-time. April, over $10,000 part-time. Listen, she's got $5.6 million in managed accounts, and she's waiting on about 2 million more, 2 or 3 million more. She'll tell you that. And she's already got about 9 million AUM already. And I asked her to get on here and talk to everybody because she is the ultimate prospector. She prospects, she networks, she's out about. She's at an event today. Luckily, I give her a lot of freedom for that, which I don't mind that. And she has a full-time job just working for me as a boss. It's total chaos, right? But she is unbelievable. Got 3 kids, great mom, great, just everything. And I'm so proud of her. I think of her as one of my own kids. So this is Melissa Corcus.
Let's see, where's Melissa?
Should be on.
Don't see her on right now.
Don't see you around, buddy.
She was on. I was just looking at her. All right. Well, I'll take. Next, we'll go. Hopefully, she'll get back on. She's actually at an event today. She was going up to get on the computer. So I'll bring up Justin, and Justin is, he's your own son. Everybody thinks, well, he's his son. It was easy. He came in. He's got his father and all that kind of stuff. Well, I made him earn everything, and it's not easy being the son of a Primerica person. Everybody thinks, oh, that's easy. You had it made. But here, think about this. Everybody in his family market was already taken. Many of his friends' market was already taken. And he had to get out. He graduated up at Alabama, came back here and went out and started getting this going. And what was so funny, he got up to making over $70,000 a year with just life in my base shop. Was a great regional leader. And I was like, why can't he ever do security? Why didn't he put some securities in there? He'd have the ring and all that kind of stuff. And finally, he got it. And so I asked him and now he has over $30 million in AUM. He's over $250,000 in income, got a great family, great home. They're just talking about their vacation they're heading out on. But I asked him to talk to the new person, because there's a lot of people I know on here that are like, what do I do now? I got my license. How does this get going? So take it away, Justin.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you again for having us on here. And like he said, getting started was tough. I remember when I first got out of college, when I was getting started, I came here to the office, and he wanted me to do my top 25 list, and we were going down the list, and he's like, client, they're a client, they're a client. We get through the list, everybody was already a client or something of his, and he's like, let's just go play golf. And so we left him and played golf. So that was how I got started. So, but anyway, so my talk here is to the brand newest person. I got licensed in 2004, and I really didn't start doing securities until probably about 2013 or 14, other than if stuff kind of fell in my lap. I was very intimidated by it. I don't know why, but I was very intimidated by it. And it's funny because my dad used to, one of the things he would always do is for the base shop training, because I wasn't doing a lot of securities, about once a month, he'd have me do a training on Roth IRA and how Roth IRA works and all that kind of stuff. And I know what his thing was. He was trying to get me more confidence to do it and believe I could do it. But I'll tell you, if you're new, one thing, it was a wholesaler of mine, came in. He showed me a very simple presentation. If you just started in 1987, you put in 100,000, and you started taking income, you'd have taken out 200,000. Today you'd have 300,000. And then the question was, where do you know that you can put in 1, take out 2, and still have 3? And I was like, well, that's easy. And literally that week, I had a former teammate had like a small rollover, and she reached out to me, and I was nervous and used to. I roll over, I'd say, Dad, I need your help or whatever. So I'm going to go do this one. And I went and did it. It was so easy and so simple. And it just, right there at that spot, I got the confidence and to be able to start talking to people about this stuff. And, again, I do a lot of life business, and there was no securities attached. And so, going back through the years, I've had to go back and try and pick up some of that. But to the brand newest person, and they were talking about in the pregame is, you got to keep it very simple. I think that's probably one of the things in my mind is I thought it was very complicated. I was worried, like, what if I invest their money and the market goes down, stuff like that. I got licensed right before the big crash, and so there was part of that was kind of intimidating to me. And, I just keeping it simple. So number one is work with your wholesalers, right? Your wholesalers have one job: work for us, right? Your wholesaler, whatever your fund company, the base shop you're using, I wouldn't try and go, reinvent the wheel. If your RVP or your regional leader, your field trainer, if they're using a certain fund company and you're just getting started, just use that fund company too, right? They're all good, right? At the end of the day, the difference between some of these fund companies like splitting nickels, right? And, so I would do that, work with your wholesalers. Number two is, I think, getting started and trying to get up and going in that is learning just to have that conversation in every presentation, right? You go through a presentation, if it's just a life presentation only or just a recruiting presentation only, you're only going to get a little piece of it, right? But if you're having a conversation about all the areas of what we do, right, you're throwing a bigger net, right? And you have a chance to pick up, the stuff, that was stuff, I would go in and talk recruiting and talk life, and that was it. And, but, you start having those conversations, picking up the little ones, you'll start gaining the confidence. And really at the end of the day, for the most part, doing a $10,000 rollover is really the same as $100,000. I mean, it's the same process. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of difference, but not really. It's the same process, same conversation, all that stuff. And so, as you're getting started, right, you always hear, attach, a PhD or 2 PhDs to every life app. And that's something, as you're getting started, I would try to make a habit of, right? Because that little money one day turns into big money, Here's a good story about something like that. I had a client that was referred to me years ago, not a huge account, like 25,000. Met with her, helped her out. She calls me up and says, as a favor, I know this lady doesn't have much, but would you be willing to meet with her? Did the life app, small little rollover, $2,000 rollover, something like that. And then that client, the small one, right? It's like, hey, would you be willing to meet with my parents? I meet with the parents. They had 15 whole life policies, no IRAs. All his money was tied up in his FedEx stock, or in FedEx 401k. And today they have well over $1 million with me. This is just over the past 5 years, well over $1 million with me. And within the next couple years, they're set to inherit about $15 million. And that all started with a small one, right? And so the point of that is, as you're getting going, pick up those small ones and gain your expertise from them, and gain, your confidence, right? I think at the end of the day, it's confidence. And it's really like they're saying in the pregame too, is just about asking questions, right? The more questions you ask, right, it's easier to find out how to help them with that. That's all I have for my part. I hope that helped. But again, I would definitely use your wholesalers, and their job, right, is to help you. That is their job.
Fantastic. Thank you, Justin. And his trajectory is like this. He's got an RVP. got some good people. We were talking about some of the people he has going right now and what they're trying to get going. Melissa's still trying to get on. They dropped their signals out there for some reason with the wireless. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on what I was going to talk about. I'm gonna hit something real quick with the PowerPoint, sort of go through it. I always tell people that the number one thing, if you're going to get started, and you want to get other people doing it. So it's not just about what you do, but you got to be willing to do it, right? I'll cover that at the beginning. But you want to get yourself to a situation where you can get other people doing it. I actually see Melissa on there now. I don't know if she's connected good or not. But Melissa, are you connected?
I am. I'm good. I had some Wi-Fi trouble, but I am on, thank God.
All right, give the video and go ahead. I already introduced you, so we'll do that. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. I'm sure it was a lovely introduction. I appreciate it. I'm switching over to co-host right now. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm so excited to be here and just share a really little bit of information with you guys that I know Mike probably introduced me. I'm going to share my screen real quick and just kind of go over some things that I've been doing that have been working for me, and hopefully they'll work for you guys too.
And Melissa, when did you get your security license?
So I got my Series 6 about 1.5 years ago, and then I got my managed account license last August. So it really hasn't been that long, but it just kind of went by quick. And I think when you're excited in general, I just think that it's easy to convey that across to other people and get things done, you know? Let's see. Can you guys see my slideshow real quick?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we talked about having money anywhere. So one of the things Mike wanted me to talk about was that, the accessibility to accessing clients. And, I mean, we talk about this all the time in our office, but money really is everywhere. If you're willing to work, you can make money here. It starts with your mindset, and you really have to have that confidence. You have to be able to portray that across to your clients when you're meeting with them face to face. Do you genuinely believe in what we do? Are you passionate for what it is that we do? Do you believe that people are better off with our products and services and our opportunity? And we did a training the other night, and that's one of the things that we talked about was when you go into an appointment, I fully expect to close. I do believe that what we have to offer is better than what else is out there in the market. So when I'm going into a client's home, I know that what I'm offering them, it's going to be better than what they already have. And having that confidence helps. And that confidence comes from building and from being in the field. I mean, a lot of times I think we get stuck behind a desk and we think that we're working and we're, doing a lot of training and, we're so fearful of being out there in the field. But the reality is that confidence comes from doing. And I'm a lot more confident now than I was a year ago. And that comes from being out in the field and meeting with clients and picking up cases, and all of that comes from that. Another thing too is your mindset. What you're focused on grows. And I know everybody here does self-improvement, so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but if you're focused on lack, that's what you're going to have. And if you're focusing on growing your business and growing your client base and growing your recruiting base, whatever it is, the model business that you have, as long as that's what you're focused on, you can definitely control that, and it'll shift your environment. I mean, I think that when you're coming in to meet with clients or, recruiting appointments or whatever it is, this is a securities call, but when you're meeting with people across the kitchen table, what you bring to that table, your enthusiasm, your excitement, whether they like and trust you, all of that conveys when you're meeting with them. And I think it helps you have that success. Another thing is knowing your craft. I mean, Mike is a master at this. He's done such a great job with us, training us in the field and explaining to us that, we always talk in Primerica about brains and top, and it does, and it works great for new recruits. You want to lean in on your upline. You want to lean in on the person that brought you in, lean on their knowledge, lean on their expertise. But eventually, if you want to get to the next level, and I'm talking to the region leaders out there, you've got to master your craft. You've got to get good at what you do, and you've got to understand that that's the only way you're going to start making some real money. The next thing is not to be a secret agent. It's so easy, to just kind of fly under the radar, and you've got to tell everybody what you do. You've got to be excited about it. You've got to, be passionate in all areas of your life. I laugh because, I have kids in sports and we play travel ball, which is a whole other animal if you've never done it. If you have, you understand the pain that I go through. But doing that, you can't be the parent sitting in the outfield by themselves in a chair. You've got to look at every opportunity to make that an opportunity to meet other people. So you've got to be in the bleachers with the other parents, smiling, talking, and, just realizing that you're on stage all the time. And then also too, people do business with people they like and trust. At the end of the day, if they don't like and trust you, if you're not making deposits, you're constantly making withdrawals in those relationships, you're not going to have the success that you want. And one of the things I like to say is I like to touch people. And by that, I mean that I like to constantly just send a little text, hey, I'm thinking about you, or leave a little voicemail, or, You know, hey, you look great today. It's so nice to see you. Just those little things that, you know, those little seeds that you're depositing help build quality relationships. And then when we talk about actually generating personal activity, you can't go wrong with your top 100 list. I mean, I think sometimes when you've been here in the business so long, you just forget to go back and look at those things. And I think it's important to revisit that list constantly. I constantly update my list, and I know that there's always opportunities to add new people to the list and go back and revisit old ones. Join groups for your hobbies, networking. I'm in probably every mom group in St. Johns County, which is where I live. And I think it's become such a great referral source for me. And I'm at the point now, after being, you know, really a year pushing this really hard, that I'm getting calls constantly. People are reaching out and saying, hey, I have a referral for you. Hey, I know this person. And to me, you know, one, that's a huge compliment. And then two, it's a great source of business to have that coming in without me really having to think about it. And, you know, just always ask for them. I mean, you've got to think about that you're saving them money, you're changing their life, you're doing amazing things for these clients. You want to make sure that you're proud of that and that you're always asking for referrals. I mean, who else do you know that deserves the opportunity to get a financial game plan just like yours, customized to them? Who else do you know that deserves the opportunity? I mean, those are things that I ask on my KTs, and I'm constantly getting referrals because of that. And to me, the key word is deserves, because we're not bothering them. You're not begging them. They deserve to have this. And I think if you look at it from a perspective that you're not bugging people, but you're literally giving them a change of life, I think you have no problem asking for referrals by doing that. And then obviously we all know, qualify your referrals. And at the end of the day, you know, just keep in mind, referrals aren't given easily, but if you don't take that as time to establish that credibility, you're just not going to get any. That's it.
That's fantastic, Melissa. I appreciate that. And she's out today working an event, right, Melissa?
I am. I am, yes.
So one of the things
I'm at a women in a women's visionary event today that I'm co-hosting.
So for a year and a half security license, tell me what your goal is, you start out in AUM for this year was, and what it's changed to. What was your goal per month?
Yeah, definitely. So my goal per month was $500,000 a month. I felt like that was a reasonable goal, is something that I could accomplish based on my contacts and networking. And I recently bumped it up to a month because once everything clears at the end of May, I'll already be at $6 million for the year to date. So I think I needed to reevaluate my goals and just kind of push myself a little harder. So now my new goal is $1 million a month.
Yeah, I think, and I think it's important for you to know, she does live too. She doesn't just do securities. February,
yes.
She did over 7,000 personal. I think our base did 26 or 25, but she did 7 of it personal. And I have other vice presidents. I mean, other people in the base that do, you know, more life and everything else, but they're all crusading. They're all doing, we have 30-something people in our base shop that are security licensed. Melissa's leading them all right now in activity this year. So congratulations on that, Melissa. And,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And there's no way not to close life business if you're meeting with clients and doing an F&A. Mike is a huge proponent of the F&A, and we do that with all our clients.
Thank you. That's awesome, Melissa. So I get back. I appreciate that. And I'm going to get back to what I was going to talk about. So basically, let me go to this one here. I think when people get started, and can you see it, Matt, pretty good? When people get started, I'm going to tell you what I think are things that are important. So when I first got my license, and the way it worked back then, I got my security license, okay? And I put off getting my security license. I actually got the ring without a security license. You could do that back then. I'd started in Orlando, moved up to Jacksonville, and went through replacement, came up to Jacksonville. And we went up to Jacksonville, you know, everybody started talking about securities and all that, but I didn't know anything about it. And I had a friend out in Dallas who was doing a bunch, and I had a couple of people get security license, but they never did anything. So I thought, well, it must not be that good because they don't ever do anything. But I should have known there's a lot of people that don't do anything in the other side either. And what happened, so I got my license, and at that time, we had a trip to Boca Raton, and I go down there. There's a guy named Lafayette Walker, Lawrence Walker's father, if you know Lawrence. Lafayette Walker taught the company how to sell securities, what I thought at the time. And I go down there, and he had 3 different meetings where he was going over that Art let him do. That he was going over how he does securities. And instead of going out to the pool, on all 3 of those, I sat in there, I tape recorded, and I looked what he did. I came back. I went to my neighbor. I said, I want you to see what I'm doing. Tell me what you think's wrong. My wife had to listen to me about 5 times, you know, and what I do, what questions would you ask? And I go to him, and I went to a couple of people in my base shop. And then I set out and did 30 security sales in 30 days while still recruiting and doing premium. See, what a lot of people think is if I know everything and I know, and we have some great training on MPI and strategies and all that, you got to have all that, but activity, I'm just telling you, beats the classroom. You're going to get out. I'll give you another great example. I'm in high school to get your driver's license in Florida. You have to go to driver's ed. The valedictorian of our high school, we had a pretty big high school, was a guy named Steve. I'll give his last name, but he got the perfect grades in that classroom. We finally have our day. We're going to go out there on the range, and you get the new cars that are donated. I'll never forget, he gets in a brand new Chevrolet and crashes through the coach's tower for our football team. See, he knew everything there was to know in the classroom, but he didn't have a clue how to drive. Whereas my dad had taken me out on Mizell Drive in Winter Park, and he put me in a Volvo, a stick shift Volvo. He said, get over, you're going to drive. He said, put your foot on the clutch, put your foot on the brake. And he said, put it in gear. Now when you put it in gear, put your foot on the gas, take your foot off the clutch. And I can still remember my dad's head jerking back and him screaming, foot on the clutch as we went down and we did. But that's how you're going to learn Primerica. And that's how you're going to learn security. You got to get out and do appointments, because once you pick it up, you'll figure out how to do it. So you got to be productive. I heard Arlie say earlier, and it's so true, it's conversations. The reason conversations are better than presentations, and you might want to have a little sort of guide presentation, but Jim Meyer, our leader, tells us all the time that 93% of communication is tone of voice and body language. Well, if that's 93% of communication, but the problem is when people get a presentation, they spend 100% of what they're worried about getting the words right, which is only 7%. And when they spend 100% of what they're worried about is getting the 7%, guess what they do on the body language and tone of voice? And we're in a business where you got to go out and people got a bias, right? Number two, foundation. If you want to get a big security business going, if you want to get people, recruit people in the security business, you want to keep people in the security business, if you want to get big security sales, the most important thing, Lou Holt said it in a book years ago, the guy, he coached Arkansas, then coached Notre Dame, and he says in his book, there's 3 questions every single person asks. They might not ask them out loud, but they ask. Your partner asks you this. Number 1, can I trust him or her? That's what they're thinking. They might not say it. Number 2, does he or she care about me? And number 3, are they committed? So everything about your business has to show commitment. Even if you're part-time, don't brag about being part-time if you're doing securities. Brag about you do 2 things. But everything is about your trust, and that builds the relationship business. So it's how you dress, how your first impressions, all that kind of stuff. You got to understand the relationship bank. Melissa hit it on. I talk about it all the time. The relationship bank works just like a regular bank. Deposits in, withdrawals out. How do you make deposits? Deposits are things like, always. Well, let's talk about withdrawals. What's withdrawal? Not returning phone calls, waiting a day, waiting even 3 hours. They call you on the weekend. Don't answer them. Not turning phone calls. Not calling when there's a problem. Different things like what are deposits? Calling people. We do little things like birthday cards. I have two girls that help out here in the office, and one of the things one does every month, she gets all the cards. We get them from the home office. She addresses them. That's her nice writing. But inside, I put a personal note. And that little personal note means a lot more. You say, well, they get an email from the company. Well, the email, man, I get emails from everybody on my birthday. I guarantee you 99% of them don't even know who I am. But they get that personal note about something, that builds a relationship bank. And that's what you want to have to get this thing going. I learned something very early in the security business. Art Williams, he had a guy that he worked with at Waddell & Reed. He had come around to all the offices. And I think his name was Harry Davis. I always said it was Harry Davis. So I hope it was. Art said he was a #1 mutual fund salesman in the world, is the way Art had it, Art could marketing. And I went up to where he had a meeting, and I'll never forget, he said something. He said, if you can get in the saddle, you can ride the horse. And what he said about that, he said, too often we go out and people have a big amount of money, and we go for that big amount of money, then we don't get it. We walk away with our tail between our legs and think we don't get it. He said, try this. And boy, this works. He said, if you go in there, maybe they have $1 million or 600,000, and say, well, I understand you don't really know me that well. But let me just ask you, would you be willing to try me out for 10,000? Make some ridiculously low number. And over again, I'm telling you, 99% of the time, well, I'll try you out for 10,000. Now you're in the saddle. Now they're getting calls from you, texts from you, notes from you. So there's a lady named Grace Head. Right after I go to that thing, I go in one of my guys, he's a $25 a month mutual fund. I say, you need to talk to my mom. I go to see her. She had like $400,000 in CDs. And it's a little worse than that. Her deceased husband owned the bank. And so I go and I say, I'm not going to get anywhere in here. I talked about it, and I did all the stuff that we do, the little, stuff. And then I finally said, well, wait a minute, maybe I can get in this out. I said, hey, Ms. Head, let me ask you this. If would you be willing to just try me out on $10,000? He said, oh, sure, son, I'll try you on $10,000. She gave me $10,000. I call her. When it was all over, she had all of her money with me. And by the way, she paid out 3 beneficiaries a ton of money over the years for what it turned into, but it all started because we got a little and went for a lot. Everybody gets a security presentation. You got to get that going to base. That will help recruiting. That helps life. One of the things I've learned over the years when we have a death claim, if they saw a security presentation before they died, many times they're going to invest the money with us. If they never saw one before, the odds go way down. You look at Jim Myers, his birthday, by the way, today, one of the greatest leaders in Prime America. He'll talk about his first op meeting. He goes in there and they talk about the rule of 72, and they gave him a plan of what $50 a month would grow to. He said, no matter if I made it in the business or not, I got excited about that plan. I got a vice president, Alan Williams, $260,000 a year earner. I recruited him directly to kitchen table, totally on mutual funds. Now, 90% of what he does is life insurance, but mutual funds is what got him fired up. I can tell you, everybody should get that presentation. Number 6, and when I mean a presentation, not some big thing, something like 4 or 5 minutes long. Find a way. Great relationships lead to great referrals. Now, listen to what I'm going to say. Great relationships lead to advocates. There's a difference in a referral and an advocate. And an advocate is someone that passionately sells you. They passionately push you. They follow up to make sure that people get with you. We can all get referrals, but passionate. Now, how do you get those? Well, obviously, they got to trust you, like, and all that. You take good care of them, treat them really good. I even do things like I'll give gift certificates. They send me people. By the way, if they send me somebody and they don't do anything, I still send them the gift certificate. Not their fault they didn't do it. They were thinking about me, right? And I'll send them the things. But great relationships lead to great advocates. 7, the 2-visit close works well investment. So here's what happens. I know we got a lot of new people on there, and when you're trying to get securities, you can be intimidated. You look at, we got 596,000 strategies. We got all the VAs. We got all the other stuff we got. It's very intimidating, but here's all you got to know. You don't got to know everything that's out there. You just got to know what's good for that client. And so Art Williams taught us years ago that if you go on the first time appointment, when you pick up policy, it works same with investments. So the first time there, your job is to build rapport, get a questionnaire, right? Maybe a little short presentation. We do 5 fundamentals. Then a little short questionnaire, what they're doing. Then you take that and get back to the fort. You don't got to just go through everything they have, all that kind of stuff. You don't even want to go through all that. You're not going to have time to study it. You could give wrong answers. And you say, well, what if they ask me a question? I have a great answer for that. So if I was there and Scott asked me a question, he says, he goes, Mike, well, how does this work in the thing? I'm going to look at it like this. I'm going to try to look smart. It's hard for me. That's why I'm wearing these glasses today, by the way. And I'll look at it and I'll say something like, I'm almost 100% sure I got the answer, but I'm going to do due diligence and make sure I give you the correct answer. And I'll call you back with that. I just don't want to quote it and not be right. People would rather you do that, and they're going to trust you more than you start trying to, well, I think it's this or whatever, and then you come back with a bunch of answers. It'd be like going to a doctor, and before he found out what was wrong with you, he started prescribing medicine. And then you bring it back to the fort, and another thing we say in the Maniacs, brains on tap, beat brains on top. You come back there, you got access to all the other people that got licensed, you got vices, the wholesalers, you got everything else. And it works the same with getting people to field train. They say, well, how can I field train securities? I don't know. Just go out and do that. That's all you got to do with them, right? Pick up the stuff, bring it back. We can still help you, right? To move up to the next level, you got to know the tax system. I talk about this all the time. You've got to understand, you do not got to be an expert on tax, and you're not going to get tax advice. But when it comes to setting up accounts, understanding Roth or traditional, Roth conversions, windows that people have, you can save people a ton of money, and that's all called value added. Let me tell you something I learned a long time ago. Price is not an issue in the absence of value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. See, I don't care what gas station I go to, no value. It's all you pump here. But when I go to someone, I want to go to someone that I know that can help. I pay a lot more to my accountant than almost anybody I know that ever pays their account. But I can tell you what he does for me and what he's done over the years is incredible, right? So the two biggest advantages we have over other investment companies, and I talk about this all the time. Number one, we can build distribution. So I have 30-something security licenses in my base shop. We just had 9 of them in an SIE class. I had 16 in the hierarchy in an SIE class. It's all about I keep building distribution. And the reason I understand distribution is great and why I want to do it in Primerica, number one, that's 9 people in my base shop that can now be RVPs. So that's pretty important, right? But it's also, I understand distribution. I went to high school with a guy named John Morgan, 2 pages over from me in the phone book. Most of you, if you live in the Southeast, you for sure know he is Morgan & Morgan. 700 and something attorneys, largest trial lawyer firm in America. Over $1 billion they pick up every year. And I will tell you this, John is probably not the best lawyer in America. Didn't go to the best law school, nothing like that. But he understands distribution. He has offices all over the Southeast and I think even in the country. I think I've seen some out west. I have a neighbor, five doors down and 7 doors. They're called the Firehouse Brothers. Firehouse Brothers are 2 firemen. They go out and they come up with a sub sandwich. They start selling sub sandwiches. 3 years ago in October, they got they made the headlines of the Wall Street Journal. They got $1 billion for their thing. They didn't get $1 billion for what they knew about subs. They got $1 billion because they had 1,400 franchises. It's distribution. Well, that's the first advantage. The second advantage is a lot of you are saying, well, how am I going to go out and get all these assets? I want to get assets under management. The way I've always done it is taprooting. So if I recruit someone, through them I recruit someone. By the way, I taproot referrals also, okay? And the key to successful taprooting is you got to teach your teammates to give powerful introductions. So I'll tell you something sort of funny. When Donna and I, my first wife, she passed away in 2006, and when the neighborhood we used to live, there was like 60 homes, like 26 of them were our clients. And not because she was all the time pushing me. I had my first death claim was a person I recruited because she, at a milk thing, got a name of a guy. I mean, she pushed it. So fast forward, I married Monica in 2008. We're sitting on the back porch looking at the river. She says, so how can I help you? I said, just become a great advocate. And I taught her how to introduce me. So if you took at her AUM, and she is security licensed, but she doesn't go on appointments, she would have about probably $6-7 million. She's already had death claims. She hadn't gone on the field, but she builds me up. I have a guy named Dale Futch in my base shop. I met him out Plaintiffs. I recruited him. And actually, 4D from him, I recruited Alan Williams, one of my vice presidents, does really well. Got some vice presidents. But Dale never wanted to go full time. But he constantly is introducing me. And it's like God when I walk in the room when he gets through, right? Get your people to give powerful introductions. Tuesday night, before we did our meeting, I had a couple in. He's getting $1.5 million settlement. He came in ready to go only because Paul, one of my part-timers with security license, gave great introduction, who, by the way, was about 4D, okay? So great introductions. Treat the second, third, and fourth down just as good as you do the first. I always tell people one of the problems we have is like when I had 4 kids. We had 4 kids in 4 years. Justin was the oldest. And I'll never forget when you get your first baby, what happens when they drop the pacifier. Oh my gosh, you pick it up, you boil it for 10 minutes, and Then you look at it, then you boil it another 10 minutes, and you put it in his mouth. And all of a sudden, here comes Tara a year later, and we boiled it for a minute and then put it in her mouth. And then Matt comes along a year and 2 months later, and we just run it under warm water. Hunter comes along, I pick it up, wipe it on my shirt, and put it in his mouth. That's what we do with teammates, right? We build these great relationships with the first ones, but many times it's the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth people. And it's the same thing with referrals. That's all about building new relationships. I put on here Brother Dave, and I love to tell this one. Brother Dave, I recruited Brother Dave in about 6 deep, right? I had a big base shop. I got about 6 deep. He's a pastor. He's living in a church, about 800 square foot. He was a junior youth pastor. He's living in a church that he had a little outside. I think the whole house was like 800 square feet. And he got really excited. I replaced his Mass Mutual policy and all that. And he got excited about, we started doing $50 a month and $100 a month. By the way, a great story. He's never made big money, and he now has over $1 million with us. That's what it's grown to over the years of him putting money. But I can tell you this, he sent me people taprooting down. And if I took Brother Dave today, I probably got 20-something million in AUM just through him, what he's sent to me over the time period. So it'll grow, right? So I like to talk about investment math. This is how you can get business also. And I won't spend a lot of time on this, but we all know the rule of 72. We know how it works, right? The doubling period. One thing I always talk to our clients about also, and the people about, is inflation. So the rule of 72 works on inflation. So if we have 3% inflation, that means every 24 years, the value of something drops in half. At 4% every 18 years. So if I think my $500,000 is a big deal right now, 18 years from now, it's going to be worth half, right? And knowing that, it tells a lot of people they need to save or invest more. The second thing I talk to people about is the biggest mistake most people ever make. You have to have a sense of urgency if you want to get everybody buying some sort of mutual. I don't care how many money you want to do, $50 a month, $100 a month, and you've got to work on the sense of urgency. The sense of urgency, I always show this: the biggest investment mistake most people make is not picking the right fund. Did I go growth or value? Did I do this one or that one or do it? Is they didn't invest early and invest often. I had a person come in the office yesterday. He goes, and we have invested. And he goes, I think the market's high. I said, how do you know? He goes, what do you mean? It's probably high. I go, well, how do you know? I said, you want to invest and buy often. And so the biggest mistake a guy is, so if I have a 25-year-old ends up at 943, you've seen the slide. Waits a year, he saves $2,400. It costs $83,000. How many of your clients would trade $2,400 for $83,000? How many of your clients, if he waits to 40, would pay $36,000 to pick up another $717,000? That's a big investment mistake. The other one I talk about is arithmetic of math and losses is terrible. It's mean. So I'm down 5%. It only takes 5 to get up. Down 10, it takes 11 to get up. Not a big deal. Down 30, it takes 43 to get up. Bigger deal. Down 50, it takes 100 to get back up to even. I use that because, especially as people get in that 55-year age, older age and stuff like that, and all their lives they've been in 401ks, right? And it was dollar cost averaging, and they keep putting their money in, and over time it's going to grow. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist for money to grow like that. Now they're at the point in their life where they're going to start turning, and volatility does matter. And I always show a slide like this. I said, people don't realize that in 2000, the S&P was down 3 years in a row, down 49%. But yet there were funds that made money that entire time. I go back to 2008. Everybody said 2008 was rough. It was down 38%. No, that's not true. From the top of 2007 to the March of 2009, it was down 57%. You know how people didn't retire because they had 800,000 and now they're down at 400 and something thousand, and they're scared to death. And so I use that to go to the next slide. And all the investment companies, I think almost all of them, I know Horizon has them, the mutual fund companies, some of them have it. Our Primerica retirement thing has it on the sequence of returns. And this is why I do that. You'll have a lot of people that think they're very smart, and they probably are, and they've saved money in a 401k over the years. And they think, well, maybe I'll just keep my 401k and start drawing money out of it. And so I'll use the example here of Diane, and they use the actual results of the S&P 500 from 72 to 97, 25 years. She retired at the perfect time. Took 500,000, took 4% out a year, did 10% over that lifetime. It ended up with $2 million. Then you got, all they do is reverse the sequence. It's the same return. By the way, if they both put a lump sum in and hadn't taken any money out, they both end up with the same amount of money. But because he's taking money out, he ends up with zero. Ken Mitchell, who got me involved in the business, I love Ken, I'm very loyal to Ken, and he's actually climbed Mount Everest. He said more people died coming down Mount Everest than do going up. And I always ask people, do you really want to go it alone? Do you really want to go it alone? Other thing on investment math, all 9% returns are not equal. You're going to hear people, taxes can change returns. If they're trading all the time, can change. You'll hear these traders, I made so-and-so. Well, you got through paying ordinary income tax on it. You didn't make so much, did you? And there's capital gains and appreciation. There's different in how they do it. That's why some of our managed accounts for people that got big money for the SMAs are way better for them tax-wise. Because they don't trade. You can buy a mutual fund, they can trade out. But you got to understand all that. You got to understand return versus risk. I always tell people, so if one person gets 9% and he's got a 30% more volatility than the stock market, another person gets 8% or 7% and he's got 60%, I'll take that one. Get that one 9% mutual. Understand the marketers. Your new guys are going to get confused. They're going to hear people on the radio. The one we get down here all the time now on the TV is the real estate thing, and we pay a 7% distribution rate. Anybody heard that one? So I had two different clients call me and say, where can I get that 7% distribution rate? I said, here's what I tell them. I said, you can get a 100% distribution rate from me. How do you can't get 100%. All distribution rate means is they take in a lump sum of money and are willing to pay back 7% of that money plus any interest back to them. It's distribution. That's not return. But if you don't understand that, you can get confused. You'll see the magazines, they'll advertise returns where they pick the certain dates, if you hit it just right. You know that from the mutual fund returns. None of us really love showing the ones that came out after the end of 22. Much better to get the ones at the end of 23, right? It works the same way. I always explain to our guys we're investors and not traders. The reason that's so important is your clients, and they need to understand this too. They're going to turn on CNBC in the afternoon and see fast money. What is fast money? It's traders. We're not traders. So Warren Buffett last weekend had his big meeting. He said, we buy companies. We buy businesses. They don't trade. And see, so many people, they'll get confused. And what you got to explain to people, and even in people in your base shop, they'll hear something negative. They'll come in. They'll be all worried about it. I said, you got to remember this. There's people that make a fortune by the market going down. There's a lot of people, so there's a movie about it, made a ton of money on the 08 thing. Sell strategy, not products. I know this, if I'm going to dig a hole, I want a shovel, not a rake. I got to know what the job is first. We use the 5 fundamentals and we make our guys memorize them. I've had Saturday mornings where they had to go through it so quick to do it. Got to have a strategy. Number one, second thing is the 3 reasons: volatility, and inflation, and taxes. Then you got to have the play offense. You got to play defense. You got to have the 3 buckets and the 5 reasons that we move money, right? And you go through all that and you teach them to do that so they can do that without looking. I teach people to use a T close. If you're new, the biggest mistake you'll have is if you're not organized, when you come back to do a close, you'll come across as rambling. The close will be very long. You'll ramble. People aren't going to want you back. You come through, and here's how you can train your new people. So they go in and pick up the information, and you take whatever we're going to the old program, what they got on one side, and you put the new on the other. So now when they go back to close it, they might have to give a few details of some of the program here and there, but they got the old versus new side by side, which makes the most sense. It's a very easy. I use a T close. I'm in an office building that I own. When I bought that, I did T close. All the real estate I've ever owned, I've done. Decisions I make, I tee close. Teach your guys to do the tee close. And then the last one I'm going to put on there is lead from the front. I'm going to talk about lead from the front in two ways. Number one, obviously, if you want your people to do securities, you got to do securities. You've got to, if you want your people to recruit, you got to recruit. If you want your people to invest their own money, you have to invest your own money. I'm going to tell you, I was very lucky. I came in the company, and when I came in, we had Bob Weisson was up line. I was talking about saving money. Art Williams always talked about saving money. And so when we got in, we started Orlando, did total replacement, came up to Jacksonville, started over, but we always saved money. And I'll never forget, our first one was $25 a month in Templeton Growth Fund. Then we went to 50, then we went to 100, and we went to 500, and we kept going on. And we made saving a habit. And I can tell you, I made many a close by saying, this is what I got. Get them to show you what they got. And what happened over the years, because we kept doing that, we were so stupid. We listened to Art and Bobby. And I didn't know anything about investments, but I was so stupid, I just followed them. And we invested. And today we live a dream life. We live in a multi-million-dollar home on the water. We got a place at the beach. We got a farm up in Georgia. We do what we want to do when we want to do it. If Primerica blew up, which it's not going to, but if it totally blew up, I'm totally fine. And it's because we did what we tell other people to do. And if you do it, the best way to learn about mutual funds, managed accounts, all that is to own mutual funds, managed accounts, another thing. And so we just got to lead from the front. But I appreciate that, and that's it.
Awesome. Scott, you
I'll jump in if you want to. We'll all jump in.
We definitely want Melissa on here. Thanks for joining us. So Melissa, everybody's wondering, you're a rock star. So you've been licensed for not even a year now, and you're talking about moving $1 million a month. How? Like there's a lot of people out here that aren't moving anything. So where are you doing?
I started off with my list, and I'm super excited to be doing this. I've been in the administrative position with Mike for a very long time. So it was nice to finally make this change and just go out there and get licensed and start making the money that he's making. So I'm definitely working towards that. But, to be out there in the field, I'm constantly talking about what I do with people. I look at myself like always being on stage. So I always try to make sure that I look my best when I leave my house. And that sounds funny, but as a mom, sometimes you're in car ride or lane in pajamas. Like people don't catch me off guard. I'm always, dressed to impress, and I try to be sharp, and I try to be, present when I'm around people. And I always ask a lot of questions. I try to make sure that people feel like I'm genuinely interested in them. And I think asking questions versus talking about what I do helps me build credibility with people. And eventually it comes back around. Eventually they'll come back to me and ask me, hey, what is it that you do? And I'm like, jump right in.
But you can, obviously, if you're moving that amount of money, you can't be casual. You can't just wait for people to call you.
No.
After you introduce yourself. So I love what you said. When you leave your house, you're a billboard, right? You're ready to do business at all times, because you never know when you're going to encounter somebody. So how do you convert? Like, would you say that the majority of your business is being done with personal face-to-face prospects that you're meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
So, I do get some referral business from Facebook. I don't do any posting on Facebook like, hey, this is what I do, but I am in a lot of groups. And I'm constantly very active in the groups. So if somebody is looking for a plumber, I'm very careful to always make connections for other people. So then when the opportunity comes up, hey, I'm looking for a financial advisor, I am always recommended, like sometimes 8-9 times by different people. And that builds me credibility, but also gets me, it's another source of opportunity, another source of clients. Yep.
Yeah. And that's a great point. So I think a lot of people get into groups. I see them in my business. And then they want to just start blasting into the group, and they destroy their credibility, and then they bring up all the trolls and everything. Can you touch on that? Like, how do you mine that group, and then when do you know when to jump in? And are you just DMing when somebody is asking for something?
That is a great question. So I agree with you completely. I think it looks dirty and I think it cheapens what we do. So I definitely do not go in there posting and saying anything. But I do comment when somebody says looking for a financial advisor. I have people already that are in my sphere that will post my name and tag me in the comments. And then in that opportunity, I'll say something to the effect of like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I'm excited to, meet with you. I will send you a private message. I don't put anything on there that somebody else could write something negative. Like I give very little. And then when I private message, then I always say the same thing. I'm like, hey, listen, we don't charge a consultation fee. I would love to get on the phone with you for maybe 15 minutes. You can ask me what questions you have. I'll tell you what it is that I do. And then if there's mutual interest, then we'll set up an in-person appointment and it works every time.
Mike, she's a rock star, man. So
I told Scott, I said, she's going to be unbelievable. We got a bunch of them coming up. I'm really proud of her.
yeah, Scott, anything to,
Yeah, well, Mike and I talked yesterday, and he could not rave enough about how great a networker Melissa was, that she's really got it down. She's involved in so much. So, Melissa, congratulations to you. Awesome job. Hey, Mike, couple questions. You were referring to the T-close. We all know what that is, but can you just tell everybody who doesn't know what that is, what a T-close is?
They actually you can look in different books. It's funny, Hector put out something the other day. He talked about if you want to get good, you got to get good at the sales side of the business. I don't know if y'all saw that on Instagram or whatever, but the T close is where you can put you put all the reason, everything they have on one side, then you put what you're going to take on the other side. Now, especially if you're doing, like we do the 5 fundamentals, so the 3 buckets. So you put right now you're all in the wrong buckets. You can show that here, and then you put on the other side. But what it allows you to do, that you can do a whole training on it, but what it allows you to do is you got an organization to your closing as you come down. So you got this new person. I remember the first time I ever went on a close, I'll never forget it. I was there 5 hours. He finally said, hey, what does it take to get you out of here? And it was because I didn't even know what to say. I didn't know how to close, but now you go this, you're going to get a better return here, more flexible, tax wise, blah, blah, blah. You get all that stuff down there. Which one makes the most sense? He says, this one, let's get going. And it's a much quicker way for a new person to understand how to do the business.
Yeah.
And an old person.
And people might know it as a Franklin T-bar,
Franklin close.
Whatever it is. The other thing we got a lot of questions on is you referred to the fundamentals, the 5 fundamentals. Can you just mention them real quick so people can jot them down?
So Chris Royce, I was already doing sort of the 5 fundamentals, a little different order than Chris, but basically I took his and I did it just a hair different, but 5 fundamentals, a quick presentation. We make sure everybody can do it. We've actually had Saturdays where we wouldn't let anybody leave until they could do it. And it's number 1, everybody needs a strategy. Why do they need a strategy? I see them all laughing, Melissa and Justin, because they've been in this training. And everybody has to have a strategy, right? Number 1. Why do you need a strategy? Three reasons. Number 1, inflation. Inflation's average in my lifetime 4%, right? And that means the price of everything goes up every 18 years. That says that also means you're getting more minus 4%. So if you're getting anything less than 4%, you're losing money, right? The third one is volatility. I go right into the volatility the second one's taxes. And what I'll talk about is not just how you make money, it's what you actually keep out of your money, and how you set up accounts is hugely important. But don't worry, Scott, that's where I'm going to help you. Remember, it doesn't matter if you educate the world. If they don't do it with you, it doesn't matter. Then the third one is volatility. And I'll show that sheet just like you saw up there. If you're down 10, it takes 11. If and I go through the whole thing. And because of that, it goes to the third fundamental. You got to play offense. You got to play offense to beat inflation. You got to play defense so you don't lose it all to volatility. And then we think the best way to do that is to do the 3 buckets, right? The 3 bucket approach, which all of y'all know that one. You got the short term right now, money market, cash is like 4.9 or short term bonds. And you got the middle one, like we'll use like balanced accounts or whatever. And then you got the wealth builder, which is the third one. And then the last thing is there's 5 reasons we'd even ask people to move money. And number 1 is they don't have a strategy. Number 2, they have the wrong product for their strategy. It's like they're trying to dig a hole with a rake. They're trying to build wealth with a CD or whatever, right? The third one is performance. The fourth one is fees. And the 5th one is service. And by the way, Scott, if you don't have a strategy, I would say you're probably not getting very good service, are you? And then the most important thing, when I finish that last one, I'm going to look at him. I see Ben Shepherd on there, or Justin. I'm going to say, and I'm very, very casual, like this, leaned over. I'm going to say, let me ask you. You right now have a strategy to make sure the next 15 years is better than the last. And I let him answer her answer her, and I go whatever, and you get it every single time with the 5 minutes. It doesn't take. I just did it for you.
Awesome.
So,
Ben, I think you have a question, buddy?
yeah, Melissa, I got to ask you, because I talk about, I think $1 million a month should be the standard for every person on this call. It's, to me, not that hard. I think the weeks that I'm working, I'm trying to at least pick up $1 million a week, because I agree with you. There's money everywhere. Very impressive, because you haven't been in the business very long. You're a mom, which I think is harder than being a dad oftentimes. I coach my kid in softball, so I know how much of a time commitment and it's not even travel ball. So can you walk through like how many appointments that you're averaging per week? And I'd also like you to hit on, because I doubt that you have an established client base at this point. So in addition to networking, what are some of your best ways to generate leads, to get appointments? And then what does your week look like in terms of your appointment schedule? I think she's on mute.
I did. I was kicked out of the room that I was in. I'm actually at an event that I need to speak at in a few minutes. So it's kind of funny. So I got kicked out. So I am here on the porch right now. Luckily, it's a beautiful day in Florida. Those are great questions. So essentially, let me backtrack. So when it comes to meeting people, I have been around the business for a while. So I think that's actually helped me a lot in the sense of my belief system and understanding what it is that we do. So I do have that foundation. But I really try to go back to I know in real estate, they call it your circle of influence, but I really refer back to that top 100 list a lot. If I see myself where my activities may be slowing down and things are not picking up, I don't have enough KTs, I try to do 2 KTs a week. And that's my goal. I still work for Mike as well, actually. So I have that position as well for the things that I do for him. So my week has to be very structured. I am psychotic about blocking out time, and I do a block schedule. I'm sorry, guys, I don't know if you can hear that, but I do a block schedule. So I block myself out in the mornings, and I do emails, I return calls, and I try to schedule my day accordingly. So I'm psychotic about time management. I think that's the only way to get done what I need to get done. So I have certain days where I'm in office days, I call them, and those are my days where I do administrative work, paperwork. And then the other 3 days of the week is when I'm out there doing lunches, coffees, KTs. I do all KTs in the client's home. Sometimes I do have revisits and things like that I will do on Zoom. But I would say 90% of my first time appointments, I always do them in the client's home. I feel like the client's more relaxed. It's a service that I provide. And for them, it's like, wow, this is amazing. It separates me from other people. I felt like your question had a lot of different bullets. Did I hit all of them or did I miss one?
So only 2 appointments per week then to get to be over?
Two KTs a week. Yeah, that's what I've been picking up is 2 KTs a week. And that's committed, confirmed, I'm going in. It might take, it takes a lot more activity in order to generate those 2 solid KTs, but I'm doing 2 KTs a week and I'm in a solid market. There's a lot of people with money. I mean, It's definitely doable.
So what I'm hearing is they're qualified appointments in the right market. So it just proves the
Correct.
point that we don't really have to be on a ton of appointments to get a ton of business. If they're qualified, they're in the right market. I'm assuming a lot of 60 and older. One of my RVPs just ran into someone that bought an altcoin several years ago, didn't put much money in, now has 53 million ready to invest. I mean, there's just money everywhere. So it sounds like to me that you're very, very efficient with your time. And it also sounds like, as much as we talk about block calendar, it's not a secret that the people that actually implement it, in my opinion, get to $1 million a year really, really fast. Because
that makes me excited.
The formula is 3 years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Brad, I don't know what your thoughts are, but if someone would actually stick to a block calendar, a real one, for 3 years, they're done. So you're such a great example. So really appreciate you hopping on today and taking some of the excuses away.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Brad, I think you're on mute, buddy.
Thanks, Melissa. Have a great event. I know you're a little panicked right now getting that done. So, Justin, just before we finish, so your dad burned your entire market and conned you to come into the business and told you it'd be easy. So now you have no market. Where'd you go? What did you do? Because we got a lot of next gens coming in right now that are in the same boat. What did you do to go out and build your book?
Oh man, well, so it didn't happen fast. I can tell you that it did not happen fast, and most of that's me, right? I'm very introverted. I always tell people, my wife, she was a single mom going to medical billing school and working at a restaurant right here by our office, and I sat in her section for probably 2.5 years before I ever spoke to her, other than telling her I wanted a sliced pork big deal with fries and an unsweet tea, right? And but just I had to get out and meet people. I had to get out and start prospecting, and then as we were going to RVP, and we had a lot of different, field training a lot of different people, and had a lot of stuff as far as that goes. So I had a lot of introductions from people I was training, right? And then and a lot of those people was either through relationships or prospecting, and then back probably 2016. And probably one of the hardest things I started doing was actually going to networking events. Being an introvert, that was very, very difficult. And now, since the beginning of 2016 to now, still part of a networking group, and that provides some really good referrals through that. Got a lot of really good stuff through that. And really, that's it. I mean, it's just kind of the same as Melissa, because I can tell you this: when Melissa was first getting licensed, she was calling me. She talked to my dad, but she was calling me a lot, like, how do you get involved in this? Or like, what do you do at the networking events? How do you get the present? Like, if it's your turn to present, like, how do you do that? And so her and I collaborated a lot on that stuff as she was getting started as well. And, but yeah, it's just really, it wasn't just one thing, but it was a lot of different things. Just, my wife was a stay-at-home mom. We had 2 kids in 2 years, and I had to make money.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a choice. I wasn't going to go to my dad and be like, hey, Dad, can you pay the mortgage this month? Right? That wasn't an option. I had to make money, and I just put my head down and did whatever I had to do to get things going.
That's awesome, man. Listen, 2 things. First of all, I'm an introvert too, so I know your pain that you suffered. We could almost do a whole class on how do introverts succeed here, and secondly, I need Mike's tip, because I need to know how to tell my kids I'm not paying their bills too. But anyway, Justin, great job. Mike, unbelievable. Melissa, amazing. Thanks everybody for helping us out. Eldon.
I just want to tell people, hey, we're going to have a booth at the show at Atlanta. And so make sure that people understand that the people that they see here, they can probably go around. We're going to end up having a schedule, and people can, come and talk to people live at Atlanta. This is how big of a deal this training is, and I think that people don't understand the value of what they really have. So I want to remind people about that hey, get your people on. This is probably the most beneficial training you will get in the company. And so really appreciate Home Office for allowing us to do this show, and the people that are answering the questions, and the whole panel that puts this together. Brad, thank you so much. You put together a calendar on a weekly basis, and you and the guys are working behind the scenes to make sure that we have quality people on this show like what you saw today. And so, hats off, hands to you guys for doing that, and for Ben for continuing to do the updates. And so this next week, I believe the plan is to have a female speaker on the show, and we're firming that up. We may not have that, but anyways, any last minute things that you want to add, Brad, before we wrap it up here?
No, great job today. We'll see everybody in Atlanta for sure, and next week as well.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.